We've taken a mighty hit in the past 2 years from China breaching various free trade agreements with Australia. But the signing of this FTA yesterday with India, it is a game changer. Katie Allen, you'd have to think we're dealing with a country here with, 1.38 billion people. There'd be some lucrative markets for Australian produce.
Look, absolutely, Chris. I've sat on the Parliamentary Trade Investment Growth Committee, and we undertook a report recently which said that we need to diversify our trading partnerships. It's pretty clear that report took a long time to deliver, but of course we've known that for a long time. But it was very clear that we need to have a China plus approach, and we now have a number of different free trade agreements that this government has delivered, and this latest interim trade alliance is going to be incredibly important because it's going to open the door for trading with, a huge democracy, and particularly when we are a trading country and a food bowl for Asia.
And I think, you correct me if I'm right or wrong here, Katie, I think Dan Tehan told me yesterday that the likes of Canada, UK, US do not have a free trade agreement with India. Is that right?
Yes, I actually spoke to Dan today, and he's thrilled about this new agreement because others have tried very hard over a long period of time and we've got there. So this is very, very significant. It plays in very nicely. Trade leads to prosperity, which leads to peace. So trade agreements, free trade agreements are incredibly important for the world, but particularly for Australia being a massive trading nation. And this is very important, particularly as well because of the Quad Alliance.
Yeah. Carolyn, it's funny what happens or what can be made to happen when things get really critical. This has been 11 years in the making. The first discussion about this between the two countries was 11 years ago. So it's a bit of a tribute to Trade Minister Dan Tehan, I think.
It absolutely is. And we know from watching these sorts of things develop over periods of time, they often don't happen quickly. But I guess what was really interesting when we saw China pull back from trade with Australia in 2020 in particular, is we saw a renewed urgency and necessity to be able to open up other trade markets. Yeah. And while it did affect things like barley and various other exports, we managed to find alternative markets for most of those things and actually come out on top. Except for wine, we ended up doing better. So what this really shows, and Chris, the old adage, if you got one customer, they own your business, right? So the more diversity we have, the more markets we have, it totally makes sense. India is a huge country, huge population, huge demand for fuel. We're sending them sheep meat and we're sending them, if I can use the dirty word, coal, a whole bunch of exports. And that there is really setting up, that there's not just short-term trade, that's medium and long-term trade. Yeah. And you want to have those things penned into the future because that's what brings Australia prosperity.